Hawa. Okay, so I'm going to read from this book. It's called here Before Columbus, Links Between the Old World and Ancient America. Again, links between the Old World and Ancient America. All right, America is the Old World. That's why there's links. It's got this image in the cover, the guy who has a beard, right? This is from America. This is by Cyrus H. Gordon. Says here, a distinguished scholar presents dramatic new evidence, archaeological, ethnographic, and linguistic, demonstrating continuing American contacts across both the Atlantic and the Pacific beginning in the Bronze Age. Says here, Mesoamericans portrayed by their own sculptors, right? When we're talking about, ancient people of Mesoamerica, how they were portraying themselves. And it says here, one would expect that the people portrayed were Indians. But what is an Indian? The only definition that makes sense as an American Indian is any member of the various groups of people inhabiting North and South America. When Columbus reached the Western Hemisphere, AD 1492. In Middle America, there are many full-blooded Indian communities in various regions such as the Aztec and the Maya areas. The remarkable fact of the countless Mesoamerican ceramic figurines is that they portray few, if any, American Indian types, such as the Aztec or Maya, before AD 300. All right, so listen to what they're trying to say here. They don't look the same like the figurines. Those that appear prior to that date and many that appear for 1,000 years thereafter belong to other races such as Far Eastern, African Negro, and Caucasian. All right, so now remember, this author has a whole out of Africa theory, and that the Mesopotamia is the old world. So he's trying to fit all that into they're finding here in the figurines. They're trying to explain what a person with so-called Negro features, they call him African Negro. But again, we dodged the hijack because we know so-called Negroes inhabited the whole plain, not just Africa. We know we had people with that phenotype here in ancient America since creation, right? Not necessarily African. So let's dodge the hijack. All right, if you're new to the information, catch up on over 200 videos that we've gone over. It's been a long journey in the last 4 years. All right, so welcome. Among the latter are a number of Mediterranean types, especially Semites. All right, here in America. Now, real quick, look at this right here. All right, see what they're showing you right here. What does it say? Post-classical Mixtec Negro head from Oaxaca, Mexico. Oaxaca, Mexico. All right, it's not me saying this. All right, this is the pottery. Just look at it. There's no denial. What is it saying here? The evidence for the preceding is on record in an important and handsomely illustrated book by Alexander von Wuthenau, The Art of Terracotta Pottery in Pre-Columbian Central and South America. All right, so real quick, I did a whole video on this book by the one they're quoting right now. So make sure to catch that video right after this video so you can get the full what's in the pictures and everything, the pottery they found all over. Alexander, what he published in his book from the 1970. Make sure to get that video. This is part 13 of my series from Indigenous American to African American. All right, so make sure to get that video. All the new people especially, you're going to enjoy that video. Some good information, some very revealing sculptures. It says here, we shall review some of the ceramic sculptures to get an idea of their implications. We start with the large Mixtec Negro head from Oaxaca. It is post-classical, 18 centimeters high, and belongs to the Huesue Science Collection in Mexico. The black color and features, such as the thick lips, leave no doubt in anyone's mind that the artist has portrayed a Negro. No artist can invent authentic races of mankind, such as the types we are examining. The implication is simply that early America was the meeting ground, of various races of men from the old world who were eventually absorbed into the modern Indian populations. They're saying, oh, there's a bunch of races here. Well, what is the true old world? when we're talking about ancient Egypt, ancient Babylon, ancient, all these biblical places, locations. What is the true places? Now they're trying to put all the people from the old world here now. Now they're trying to put them all into because they're trying to fit their narratives. You overstand, we overstand together. Dodge the hijack, big time. All right, so these are the depictions he's talking about. You see that? So these two right here are A and B. It says A and B, highly stylized Negroid heads with scar tattooing from Veracruz. From Veracruz, not from Africa. All right. And it says down here, this is D. D says seated Negroid figure of classical period. Right here. Then I just want to show you this image right here. Right? He got a beard and everything, you see. And now they're saying Mediterranean merchant prince. Was there proof of that? Could be, yes. But was there proof of that? They're just talking about the phenotype. It says from Iximche, Chimaltenango, Guatemala. From Guatemala. From Guatemala. Just from the Maya area of Iximche in the province of Chimaltenango, Guatemala, comes a superb incense burner, probably of pre-classical date. It is 33.5 centimeters high and belongs to the Musée de Léon in Paris. All right, Paris, and the museum in Paris. Everything about the sculptured head, nose, beard, expression would fit a Northwest Semite. A Semite. Whether he was a Phoenician, Syrian, Israelite, all right, Israelite, Greek, or even an Etruscan is not important, for delving into such problems often degenerates into unprofitable hyper-finesse. If we be impelled to define him specifically, we may tentatively call him an ancient Mediterranean merchant prince. That's what he's describing him. Again, where's the true old world? All right? You've been here. We had every phenotype. Queen Mu and the Egyptian Sphinx. All right, so there was again the book by Costas Le Plongeon. Let's begin. It says the country known today as Yucatan, one of the states of the Mexican Confederacy, may indeed be justly regarded by the ethnologist, the geologist, and the naturalist, the philologist, the archaeologist, and the historian as a most interesting field of study. All right, this should be what they're studying, but you know what? They've neglected it all this whole time. How are they finding thousands of structures? They're gonna find millions, but they're finding thousands of structures in the jungle today. And they said it's gonna take them 100 years just to study one site, like these 60,000 structures. That's one, certain areas they did their LiDAR scan on. They haven't even done the LiDAR scan on the whole jungle yet. All right, so they're still gonna be finding things. This is the place where all these professionals, right, in the field, in their fields, right, PhDs should be putting their interest in. All right, he's letting you know right away. Its area of 73,000 square miles, covered with dense forests, is literally strewn with the ruins of numerous antique cities, numerous majestic temples, stately palaces, the work of learned architects. Now heaps of debris crumbling under the inexorable tooth of time and the impious hand of iconoclastic collectors of relics for museums. Alright, he's letting you know. Majestic temples, numerous antique cities. Where's all this stuff in Egypt, right? So ancient, but they always just show us like 3 pyramids. Where's the rest of the city? Where's the courts, the university? Like I know that they're scattered all around and they give us, these explanations, but not like over here. You guys don't understand. These are like metropolises, right? Like real big giant cities, with majestic temples, stately palaces, the work of learned architects, very wise people, Toltec architects, builders, mound builders, pyramid builders. All right. Now heaps of debris. Now it's all debris, right? They're just collecting things for the museums. He says, among the statues of priests and kings, mutilated and defaced by the actions of the elements, the hand of time and that of man, he prostrated in the dust. Walls covered with bas reliefs, inscriptions, and sculptures carved in marble. All right, carved in marble. Are you hearing all this, right? You got to picture all this in the jungle right here, in the Yucatan, Guatemala. All right, on the kingdoms, in majestic palaces, statues of priests and kings of marble. All right, priests and kings. Priests and kings. You mean a priest, king, a Khan? Khan. The Khans, they called themselves the Khans, the Maya, the Khans, the Serpents, Khan, priest kings, the Drakons, dragons, the plum serpent, the Amaru. Alright? Now it says, alright, so all these things carved in marble, right? Containing the panegyrics of rulers, the history of the nation, its cosmogonical traditions, the ancient religious rites and observances of its people, inviting decipherment, attract the attention of the traveler. All right, there's so much stories he says there in the inscriptions telling them their history. This is called Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids by Peter Tompkins, author of Secret of the Great Pyramid. All right, so I'm on page 116 of this book, and I just wanted to zoom into this table right here, this chart. Just wanted to show you real quick. All right, it says Maya and Egyptian. All right, they're comparing the hieroglyphics. All right, so you see that? Very similar, right? In some cases, this one, right here, right here. Look at that. Not too different. All right, so you understand who's the real Nagas, and you know we got it in the past videos. Who civilized who? Right? We're just gonna get more correlation in this video. All right, it says a later comparison between Mayan and Egyptian alphabets. First, they're gonna be mentioning this archaeologist. It says in the College of San Gregorio, Mexico City, Brasseur discovered a manuscript in Nahuatl to which he gave the name of Chimalpopoca Codis in honor of his teacher of Nahuatl, Faustino C. Galicia, who was a descendant of Moctezuma's third son. Brasseur complained that no serious archaeological work was being done in the Americas, that it was foolish to try to write world history, leaving out one half the world. All right, how could they try to write world history when they only writing about the other side of the world, when we got all these advanced civilizations over here on the other half of the world, right? So it was so foolish to try to write world history leaving out one half of the world, the Americas. He believed the Carians of Central America to have been the oldest known civilization. The oldest, he's talking about in the world, not just in the Americas. An industrious and commercial people who could handle metal and precious stones. Great sailors and astronomers who had traveled the world colonizing Atlantis. They colonized it. This is Atlantis. This is that center. This is the origin. And they also colonized what? The Mediterranean and ancient Egypt. Who civilized who? Whose astronomy, physics, and religious practices were similar, including a strong cult of Sirius, the dog star, and deification of the crocodile, from all which Brasseur concluded that either Egypt had been a Central American colony or vice versa. And you know the truth is that it was just a colony of Atlantis, so-called Atlantis, America, or Central American colony. All right?
The Maya.
All right, so there was again the book by Augustus Le Plongeon. Thus, it is that we come to learn from the pen of an ancient Maya philosopher that the name of his people, once upon a time so broadly scattered over the face of the earth, had its origin in that of the country they inhabited. All right, the time of the word Maya, a place situated in the northern tropical parts of western continent, in that land of Cuy, all right, where the sprout is, in Guatemala, that mysterious home of their ancestors, where the Egyptians thought the souls of their departed friends went to dwell, all right, the underworld, which was known to its inhabitants as Mayak, all right, Mayak, the land of Cuy, a word that in their language meant the first land. The land just sprouted, the first land, all right, motherland, also the hard land, the terra firma, as we learn from the sign of aspiration, hardness, coagulation, place each side of the body of the calabash to indicate perhaps the rocky formation of its soil, and that it had withstood the awful cataclysms which swept from the face of the earth the land of Mu, and many other places with their populations. The priests of Egypt, Chaldea, and India preserved the remembrance of their destruction in the archives of their temples, as did those of the Mayak on the other side of the ocean. So real quick, I just want to go to the footnote here, talk about the land of Kui. It says 1 right here before we continue. And it says 1, right? Look what it says. It says Sir Gardner Wilkinson, Manners and Customs of Ancient Egyptians, Volume 3, page 70. All right, get that. Kui land. All right, Kui land. According to the Maya language, the land of the gods. The birthplace of the goddess Maya. The goddess who? Maya. The mother of gods. Of men. The feminine energy of Brahma, by whose union with Brahma all things were produced. All right, who is Buddha's mom? Maya. Her name is Maya, and his name is Watama. Guatemala. We're talking about Guatemala, right? Being the sprout, the place where they all spring up, all those volcanoes creating land, the first land. All right, look that up. That's in Manners and Customs of Ancient Egyptians, Volume 3. Talking about Kui land, according to Maya language, the land of the gods, the birthplace of all their gods, even in Egypt. All right, so real quick, we're in encyclopediabritannica.com. All right, and it says here, we're talking about Maha Maya, or the mother of who? Guatama, Buddha, Guatemala, Guatemala. Maha Maya, Maya mother, Maya, the mother of all the goddess, all the gods. Mahamaya, also called Maya, the mother of Gautama Buddha. She was the wife of Raja Shutsdo Hodana, it says here, right? Gautama Buddha, Guatemala, Guatemala or Gautama, Guatemala, all right? Guatemala, Guatemala, Guatemala. What does it say here? The lost history of the little people. They're spiritually advanced. Now it says here, let me see, it says the key, the hub, had to be Central America. For all indicators mark it as one of the first colonies established from the motherland, the inundated Pacific lands. They're talking about Mu, right? The particular spot where they landed was Mexico. The capital city of the Quetzals was established thereabouts in Guatemala. And then says, what does it say? Guatemala in parentheses, right? It's not just me correlating this. It's very old name of the Americas. Guatemala is a very old name of the Americas. One of the 5 landing places after the flood, hence Guatemala. All right, one of the landing places after the flood. These Quetzals of milk white skin, Dash the hijack, were the first foreign settlers in Mesoamerica. Guatemala is the nation of the Quiche Maya people, and in South America, its cognate Quechua is the language spoken by their long-lost cousins, the Incas. All right, cousins of the who? Quiches, Quichua, Quiche, Quechua. Quechua, Cusco means navel, right? Cusco. All right, and we're back in the book Queen Mu and the Egyptian Sphinx by Augustus Le Plongeon. When Aryan colonists had not yet established their first settlements on the banks of the river Saraswati in the Punjab, and the primitive Egyptian settlers in the valley of the Nile did not fancy. All right, so they're telling you before any Hindu people or any people in Hindustan or anybody in the valley of the Nile or right there or the other side of Egypt or any Egyptian wherever Egypt was, they're saying that there was nobody there. There was not a fancy. Even their most hopeful daydreams that their descendants would become the great people whose civilization was to be the cradle of that of Europe. There existed on the western continent a nation, the Maya, that had attained to a high degree of culture in arts and sciences, all right? So before they could even daydream, all right? Before them, before the Hindus, before the Egyptians, there existed on the western continent the Mayas, all right? It says here Valmiki and his beautiful epic, the Ramayana, which is said to have served as a model to Homer's Iliad. All right, you see? So Homer's Iliad came from the Ramayana. Tells us that the Mayas were mighty navigators. All right, so the Ramayana, all right, this is a Hindu book or epic or poem. All right, so we're in ancient history encyclopedia, just real quick, so we can get a reference, right, of what we're talking about. So the Ramayana, do you see the word Maya in it? What is the Ramayana? It's an ancient Indian epic composed sometime in the 5th century BC. All right, so they're saying it's supposedly more than 2,000 years old. All right, about the exile and then return of Rama, prince of Ayodhya. It was composed in Sanskrit by the sage Valmiki. All right, we just heard that name, right? So Valmiki, who taught it to Rama's sons, the twins Lava and Kush. Kush, Kush, like Kush, son of Ham. At about 24,000 verses, it is rather long poem, and by tradition, it is known as the Adi Kavya. Adi meaning original, and then first Kadiya or first poem. All right, so it's very old writing. All right, so we're also going to get into he's going to reference the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata. All right, what is this? And this says that the Mahabharata is an ancient Indian epic where the main story revolves around two branches of the family, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, who in the Kurukshetra war battled for a throne of Hastinapura. Alright, interwoven into this narrative are several smaller stories about people dead or living and philosophical discourses. Listen to this, it says Krishna, Dawipayan, Dawipayan, Vyasa. Alright, Krishna himself is the character in the epic, composed it as according to tradition. So they're giving Krishna, right, their god Krishna, I know you guys have heard of that, the credit for writing the Mahabharata, which we're going to see contain stories about the Mayas and how they were the architects. They built their cities, these Hindu cities long ago. Alright, so Krishna is letting us know. Alright, it says he dictated the verses and Ganesha wrote them down. So down here it says, including within it the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata is one of the most important texts of ancient Indian, indeed world literature. Very important. And guess what? It has the Maya all over it. So let's go back to Queen Mu and continue reading again. It said that Valmiki in his beautiful epic, the Ramayana, which is said to have served as model for Homer's Iliad, tells us that the Mayas were mighty navigators. All right, you can go verify that. It's in there, and I did. Whose ships traveled from the western to the eastern ocean, from the southern to the northern seas, in ages so remote that the sun had not yet risen above the horizon. The sun was still not what? Oof. Wow. Long ago, all right? Remember? Long ago. Paleo. Long ago. Far, far in the distant past. Far, long ago. That being likewise great warriors, they conquered the southern parts of Hindustani. All right, that's what they call India today. It was called Hindustani. All right, that whole peninsula, they conquered it, right, and established themselves there. That being also learned architects. All right, since they were also learned architects, Toltecs, Maya. All right, they built great cities and palaces. All right, they're talking about what they did in Hindustan. These Mayas became known in after times under the names of Danavas. You hear that? Danavas. Danavas. All right, we're going to learn about that too. All right, and are regarded by modern historians as aborigines of the country, or Nagas, as we shall see later on. All right, they're the aborigines of Hindustan. Who? The Mayas, who were known in Hindustani as the Nagas, the serpent people, the Amaru Khan, plum serpent. But knowledge, serpent means knowledge. It doesn't always mean something bad. All right, so Danavas. All right, just want to go to the footnotes. All right, because we got a footnote here. They built great cities and palaces, and then we got number 2. All right, so let's go to the footnote real quick. Now it says Valmiki in the Ramayana, and this is in volume 2, page 26. If you want to verify it, go ahead. This is an ancient text, remember, 2,000 years old. Epic Indian, all right? In olden time, it says, there was a prince of the Danavas, a learned magician meaning he who can build, architect, endowed with great power. His name was Maya. All right, that's in the Ramayana. This is quoting it. We're quoting it right here. It was he who, by magic art, with his magic art, constructed this golden grotto. He was the Vikakarma, architect of the gods, this guy named Maya, of the principal Danavans. And this superb palace of solid gold is the work of his hands. All right? Again, go verify that. That's in the Ramayana volume 2. All right? Maya is mentioned in the Mahabharata as one of the 6 individuals. All right? The Mahabharata, we just got it. One of the most important of ancient Indian literature, or even the world, it told us, right? Right, in Ancient History Encyclopedia. All right, so Maya is mentioned there too as one of the 6 individuals who were allowed to escape with their life at the burning of the forest of Kandava, whose inhabitants were all destroyed. You hear that? Something happened. They got overtaken. Now we know, we've read before how that even in the Maya kingdoms, they were warring against each other. They were taking over some, and they will, destroy the whole city or town, take everybody, take the wisest prisoners. So this is maybe another part of this. Like, we probably might be looking at the other side of the story, right, from the Hindus' perspective. So they're saying that this dude Maya in the Mahabharata, he was one of the ones that they were allowed to escape. Was he royal? He was allowed to be gone with their life at the burning of the forest of Kandava, whose inhabitants were all destroyed. All right, we read in John Campbell Ullman's work, The Great Indian Epics. Now, Maya was the chief architect of the Danavas, all right, chief architect, and in gratitude for his preservation, built a wonderful sabha, or hall, for the Pandavas, the most beautiful structure of its kind in the whole world, all right, that was built by Maya. That Great Indian Epics, all right, check it out. Danava, it says too. Now we're in the footnote number 2. Now remember, look at this. Danava. Now look at this. It says Tan haba, tan mist, ha water, ba a composite particle used to form reflective dissonances. They who live in the midst of the water, navigators, Danava. This Maya etymon accords perfectly with what Professor John Campbell Ullman in his work, The Great Indian Epics, Mahabharata, page 133, says with regard to the dwelling place of the Danavas. All right, the dwelling place of the Danavas. Let's hear it. It says, Arjuna carried war against a tribe of the Danavas. See, told you it was a war. Something happened. Arjuna came with his war and conquered the Danavas, the tribe of Danavas, against a tribe of the Danavas. Tribe of Danavas. All right, pay attention now. Let's separate the D-A-N from the A-V-A-S. So it's, let's say, tribe of Dan. The tribe of Dan. All right, so we're real quick right here. It says Danava, right? We just heard of the Maya, who was the Danavas. It says here that in Hindu mythology, the Danavas were a race descending from the Daksa. They were the sons of Danu, the sons of Dan, the tribe of Dan. They were the sons of Danu, the daughter of Daksa. Danu is connected with the waters of the heavens and is likely associated with the formless primordial waters that existed prior to the creation, the primordial waters. The name is connected with the Piru Danu river or any flowing liquid. All right, the Danavas. All right. So, this is in Hindu mythology, right? What we're talking about here, right? So also just wanted to show you guys this. So it's like the word Maya. This is a good website I found. So like it says here, this is called ancientvoice.wiki.com. It says Danava, Maya, and the Mayans of America. It says in this article, now expanded into a series of articles, I focus on Danava Maya, who is mentioned extensively in ancient India literature, in Sanskrit and Tamil, and explore the possible connection to or of Maya and his Mayan tribe with the Mayans of Mesoamerica. All right. So this guy's website is all about connecting that. He has a lot of good info in here. I've written about Maya in some other article dealing with other subjects. Maya belongs to the Asura Danava tribe mentioned with great detail in ancient Indian literature, including two of the four of the Vedas, the Rig Veda, the Atharva Veda. All right, so they also come out in these, the Vedas, and the epics, the Mahabharata and Ramayana. All right, and the Puranas. Maya's all over in Sanskrit as well as in Tamil epic literature, the Silakpati Karam. This is my attempt to bring everything about this Asura Danava Maya tribe that produced great architects, technologists, mathematicians, and astronomers of ancient India together into a single article. You hear that? The Maya. All right. Just want to show you like his topics here. It says architect Maya and the concepts of Maya, Maya in the Vedas, Maya in Ramayana, Maya in Mahabharata, Maya in Vishnu Purana, and all this, the Maya theory of the sun, Indian Mayans and the Mesoamerican Mayans, Maya Chola connection, Chola, Mayan Chola, Raja Chola, Prester John. You know that was another name for him? Raja Chola. It was like saying, yo, what up, Cholo? You know, that word goes way back, Cholula. All right. Other Indian tribes in Mesoamerica. All right. So, you know, there's a lot of, reading here. Queen Mu. All right. So let's go back to that again. Now we got a little more clear perspective. It was telling us that the Mayas, are the aborigines of the country, or the Nagas. As we shall see later on, all right? We're going to read this whole book. Of these, J. Talboys Wheeler in his History of India says, the traditions of the Nagas are obscure in the extreme. They point, however, to the existence of an ancient Naga empire in the Deccan, having its capital in the modern town of Nagpore. And it may be conjectured that prior to the Aryan invasion, the Naga Rajas and Raja Chola, the Naga Raja Chola, all right, Naga exercised an imperial power over the greatest part of the Punjab in Hindustan, all right. It was an imperial power. These were the royal people. These were the aborigines, people who came from Mesoamerica, the motherland, Mu, Atlantis, whatever you want to call it. Like the English of today, the Mayas sent colonists all over the earth. All right, the Mayas colonized the earth. Okay, again, the Mayas colonized the earth, including Africa. These carried with them the language, traditions, the architecture, astronomy, cosmogony, and other sciences, in a word, the civilization of their mother country. Brought civilization to the world, science, all right? What you talking about? Netter. What you talking about? That Thoth? What you mean? Thoth is from Atlantis. Oh, you mean the Hindus? No, what you mean? The Nagas? The Nagas are from Atlantis too. Or Mayak. All right? The womb of the water. The womb. First land. All right? It is this civilization that furnishes us with the means of ascertaining the role played by them in the universal history of the world. All right? It is to this people, the Mayas, all right? Credit is due what credit is due. It's not about, oh, the whole land was connected. But Kurimeo, the whole land was connected. Africa's still old. No, you're not understanding. You're not understanding. You're ignoring what I'm reading. All right, we're reading different books, different correlations. We're on part 12 of this series. Go all the way back to part 1 if you're just new to this. All right, credit is due what credit is due. There's an origin. There is still an origin to certain specific things. And you got to give the credit where it's due, because if not, you're in the incorrect or you're in the wrong orientation. You're seeing things in a whole different way. You're seeing it in reverse or backwards. You're in a spell. You got to break out of that, all right? Again, It is this civilization that furnishes us with the means of ascertaining the role played by them in the universal history of the world. The history of the world. We find vestiges of it and of their language in all historical nations of antiquity in Asia, Africa, and Europe.
Here in the rainforests of Central America, 1,000 years ago, a great civilization perished. It was already ancient at that time. Born in the days of Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, it outlived the Roman Empire and the reign of Charlemagne. But by the time the Spaniards invaded the New World and discovered this startling history, its greatest achievements were long in the past. The classic temples and palaces of the Maya had lain in ruin for 5 centuries. The torrid swamplands bordering the Gulf of Mexico produced one of the earliest high cultures in the Americas, famous for its colossal sculpture of helmeted men with thick lips and flat noses. Thick lips and flat noses. These huge basalt heads, up to 9 feet high and weighing as much as 40 tons, were produced at La Venta.
All right, so I'm in this book now. It's called The Sacred Mysteries Among the Mayas and the Quiches, 11,500 years ago. All right? Yes, 11,500 years ago. Their relation to the sacred mysteries of Egypt, Greece, Chaldea, and India. It says here Freemasonry in times anterior to the Temple of Solomon. Illustrated by Augustus Le Plongeon. This book is from 1886. The forests of Yucatan and Central America are today for the majority of the people of the United States, even those who call themselves scientific and well-informed, as much as terra incognita, meaning it's unknown to them. All right, he's trying to say they don't really know anything about it, and this is during his time, right? As America was to the inhabitants of Europe before its discovery by Cristobal Colon in 1498, when for the first time he came in sight of the northern coast of South America and navigated along it from the mouth of the river Orinoco to Porto Cabello in the Golfo Triste. If you haven't persuaded the books of J.L. Stevens, Norman, and other tourists who have hurriedly visited the ruins of the ancient cities that lie hidden in the depths of those forests, have a vague idea that there exist the remains of stone houses built sometime or other before the discovery, aver authoritatively that their builders were but little removed from the state of savagism, and that none of their handwork is worth the attention of the students of our age. Their civilization, they confidently say, was at best very crude. They were ignorant of art of writing, and the scanty records of their history chronicled on their skins and pictorial representations are well nigh unintelligible. They had no sciences, no mental culture or intellectual development. They were in fact a race whose intelligence was, for the most part, of lower order. From what they did, nothing is to be learned, and that has any direct bearing on the progress of civilization. In no wise can they be compared with the Egyptians or the Chaldees, much less with the Greeks or Romans. It is not, therefore, worth our while to spend time and money and researches among the ruins of their cities. It is to Greece, it is to Egypt, to Chaldea, that Americans must go in order to make new discoveries. In those countries must be established schools for study of Greek or Egyptian or Chaldean archaeology, and American schools have been established at Athens and Alexandria, and expeditions sent to Syria, to the shores of the Euphrates. Alright, so he's saying this is what the scholars were saying. This is what the scholars were saying when they were going in there. There was, even though they went in there and found things, and a lot of these probably are Freemasons and stuff, and they kept it to themselves and just said, there's nothing there to find. There's nothing there good. That's what he's saying. But look what he's going to say right now. But the European scientists who for many years past have explored those old fields in order to obtain relics to fill the shelves of the museums of their capitals and turned up the soil of the Orient in search of archaeological treasures, now look to the Western continent in quest of the origin of those ancient civilizations. Where are they looking now? He's letting you know this is back in the 1800s. Alright, because what happened? They couldn't find anything over on their side. So what did they start doing? Now they look to the Western continent in quest of the origin of those ancient civilizations, which they have been unable to find in the countries where they once flourished. They haven't been able to find any of these ancient monuments or things mentioned like in the Bible or anything like that. They haven't been able to find them over there because they're looking at the wrong side. And they look with that reverence which true learning begets on those ancient American temples and palaces that are object of contempt for some modern American scientists. All right, and check this out. This is a big one right here. Let me just show you this one. All right, so you got on one side it says, on the left it says ancient Maya hieroglyphic alphabet according to mural inscriptions, and to the right is Egyptian hieroglyphic alphabet according to Messrs. Champollion, Lejeune, de Brunsen. All right, so they're talking about, at least the Egyptian ones, they're verified from primary sources that they're using in that time, and this is what he's finding and what they're finding in the Americas on the left, and you can see the resemblances, right? So this little by little, all right, you see. Yeah, so you got this one right here, and then you got the thing right here. Then you got like a little box right here, another box right here. Alright. You see this one, then this one as well over here. Basically the same, you see that? Alright, you got this right here. Well, two of them, right? You got similar. Alright, you got this one right here, and so on, right? You can see, well, this one looks like this one, or at least this one, right? And water, is that water, the line, look at that. Alright, square, look at this. You got a triangle here, and you got this one and this one. Alright, just backwards, look at that. Same, kind of like the same. Alright, then you got the lines. Okay. Alright, so yeah, it has a lot of similar, you see the symbols here and the letter that it associates to, supposedly. Alright, are we just talking about the ancient pictograph? The ancient Ibarias, who really civilized who?
As I go through the research, I find certain things ringing bells with me. I'm working in the Mississippi Valley. I'm at Moundville in Alabama, and I'm looking at a notice board. It's just the beginning of my research into this interesting culture in the Mississippi Valley. And the notice board has been put up by the site, and they're telling us about the site. And what they say is that the whole site was about afterlife beliefs, and that it was believed that on death, the soul of the deceased would ascend to the constellation of Orion, and then would pass through the constellation of Orion to the Milky Way, and then would make a journey along the Milky Way where it would face trials and tribulations and be judged on its behavior during life. The weird thing is, that's exactly the ancient Egyptian system of religion. It's exactly the system. It's too detailed to be a coincidence. What is that narrow star shaft in the Great Pyramid doing, if not pointing at the lowest of the three stars of Orion's belt? To send the soul of the deceased up to Orion, then indeed a journey along the Milky Way, trials and tribulations, and a judgment. The same story exactly. But how do we explain that? Can it be a coincidence? No, I don't think so. Details are far too complicated.
All right, so there was again the book by Augustus Lejeune, To Return to Character, in which the foot of the tree is planted. Khan not only means south, as we have just seen, but it has many other acceptations, all conveying the idea of might and power. Khan, American, Khan. It is a variation of Khan, C-A-N, serpent, the Khans. The serpent with inflated breast, suggested by the contour of the Maya Empire, was adopted as a symbol of the same. Its name began that of the dynasty of the Maya rulers and their totem. We see it sculptured on the walls of the temples and palaces raised by them. In Mayak, in Egypt, in China, in India, in Peru, and many other places, like the image of the serpent was the badge of royalty. The Khans, priest king, royalty, the Nagas. It formed part of the headdress of the kings. It was embroidered on their royal garments. Khan, there we go, with H, K-H-A-N, Khan, is still the title of the kings of Tartary, which were the original kings of Tartary. We're just talking about Prester John. We're just talking about, or we talking about King David? What are we talking about? Somebody over here, a cacique over here. In ancient times in America, the Grand Khan, Grand Canyon, what? So that's still a title today, right? Now it says Mayak, that is the land that first arose from the bottom of the deep. All right, the womb, we just heard in the Ramaya that Maya is from the womb, the land of the womb that came out first, right? In the Ramaya. So again, Mayak, we got that in the last video, right? The land that first arose from the bottom of the deep. We know that the Ya'ak is turtle, the water turtle that came out, the turtle, right? Turtle Island was the name of the empire whose sovereigns bore the title of Khan or serpent, no serpent worshippers, not Naga serpent. What we're talking about, the title of the Khans. Khan, spelled today Khan, K-H-A-N. What are you talking about when we're talking about draw Khans and Khan? What up, Khan? All right, the Khan. All right, in Asiatic countries, it's called Khan. They took the title. They took your title. They took your title and created their title. Genghis Khan? Nah, he wasn't the first. He just took a title. He just took over a whole throne, a whole empire that was yours. All right? What you talking about, Georgie? We talking about Georgie Danilovich? Who we talking about when we talking about Genghis Khan? Georgie Danilovich, the original Russians? Future video. All right, it says this title given by the Mayas to their rulers was derived from the contour of the empire, that of a serpent with an inflated breast, the plum serpent, which in their books and their sculptures they represented, sometimes with, sometimes without wings, sometimes with, sometimes without wings. All right, as the Egyptians did the Uraeus, symbol of their country. All right, just like the Egyptians copied. All right, Aelian says it was the custom of the Egyptian kings to wear apes of different colors in their crowns. This reptile being emblematic of the invisible power of royalty. All right, letting you know how they had, the pharaohs had the snake on their head. That's royalty. That's the Khans, the Nagas, right? Still, the Egyptian sages must have had very strong motives for thus honoring this serpent and causing it to play so conspicuous a part in the mysteries of their religion. Was it perchance in commemoration of the mother country? Could have been that? Of their ancestors beyond the sea toward the setting sun? Could it have been that? There the ancient rulers, after receiving the honors of apotheosis, were always represented in the monuments as serpents covered with feathers. What? The heads adorned with horns. We're talking about the Dracons. A feathered serpent with horn, a Dracon, and a flame fire instead of the crown. Often also with simply a crown, a Dracon. It is well to remember that in Egypt, The Cerastes, or honored snakes, were the only serpents with the asps that were held as sacred. All right, don't forget what Amaru means. Amaru is the Andino, or the dragon of the Andes. The Amaru is basically the same thing as feathered serpent. Amaru Khan, get it? American, Tamari, land of the beloved. Right. So I'm in this YouTube channel. It's called Praveen Mohan. All right. The video right here that we're going to see is called Naga, the reptilian secret of sound and frequency, ancient technology in Cambodia. All right. So what does he have in here? So this is a very interesting channel. You know, follow it a lot, and I like the information. You know, he goes to all these sites over there, so it's very interesting what he'd be finding over there, right? So we can correlate with the information we got over here, right? All right, so let's go ahead and again hit like and subscribe, you know, all right, to the channel. Thank you for uploading this for us and the investigation.
Hey guys, today we're going to look at something really fascinating in the ancient temple of Preah Vihear in Cambodia. Today, to reach Preah Vihear temple, we have to drive up through steep roads because the temple complex is on top of a mountain, which is about 1,700 feet tall. And we are able to reach almost the top, and then we can park the car and explore the temple. But this is not how ancient people visited the temple. Hindus considered climbing mountains a sacred ritual in itself. So to truly experience how ancient people reached the temple, you have to go through an entrance, which is forbidden to visitors now. This is the ancient staircase, and immediately you notice that it is guarded by these two giant Nagas. The Nagas are snake-like reptilian creatures described in sacred Hindu texts. But these Nagas are awe-inspiring. Look at the size of each one.
Yo, these Nagas are all inspiring.
According to Cambodian legends, a humanoid by the name of Preah Thornk married a Naga princess called Niang Nyak, and the Khmer race, the Cambodian race, was born.
You heard that? So a Naga princess is the original mom there. All right. That's how he says the Cambodian race was born. We're talking about the original ancient Cambodians, right? The Aborigines came out of this prince, this Naga princess, I'm sorry. All right. So, you know, he's letting you know, so she was, it wasn't just a serpent, right? So she got involved with a human, right? So let's keep going.
But there's a weird detail at the bottom here. It appears as though it has feathers. Do serpents have feathers? In ancient Mayan and Aztec civilizations of Mexico, serpent gods are shown with feathers. This deity is known as Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl. Furthermore, look at the position of the carving. It's carved on the sides of the staircase. And that's exactly what we see here. In other parts of the region, we can even see these feathered serpents guarding the stairs. Yes, this is in Southeast Asia, just like the Mayan monuments of Mexico. Is this a mere coincidence? But we are not going to compare civilizations today. Let's go.
All right. So is this a mere coincidence, right? That the Mayas or, you know, temples and the southeastern temples are the same. Which one is older? All right, he said he's not going to compare it, but, you know, what have we been correlating? All right, so we just got Augustus Leplejon confirming it on a whole different temple that we didn't even see in this video. All right, so I just wanted to show you. All right, so again, this Naga that he was saying has feathers in the bottom. All right, the feather serpent. That's from here on this side. All right, Amaru Khan, Amaraka kingdom, the Amaru. All right, it says here the Nagas We have seen we're highly civilized people, all right? The Nagas were very civilized, building all these temples over there and teaching science and everything, right? Whose rulers held sway over the whole of Hindustan, the whole of Hindustan. When the Aryans established their first colonies on the banks of the Saraswati, later on we shall see that these Nagas were originally Maya adepts. All right, later we're going to break this down. We're going to read this whole book. All right, all right. But these were Maya adepts, these Nagas, who in remote ages migrated from Mayak to Burma, whence they spread their doctrines among the civilized nations of Asia and Africa. Did they spread their doctrines? Hey, maybe. So again, I'm not promoting the whole idol thing, building idols and all that, or worshiping serpents or anything like that. If that's where you're going, nope. But what I'm saying is these are the Maya adepts. That's the main thing I want you to understand. That these were Maya adepts. All these references, the tags, Nagas, all this stuff. Whatever they were doing, spreading their doctrines, to the civilized nations, were they supposed to? Should they have? How else explain the use of the American Maya language by the Hindus, calling Maya the material world? Maya, and even in the Hindu language, right? Maya means the material world, the physical, the first land, the origin. You understand? The mother, Ma. All right, Ma, country, Yak. All right, Veretrun, of the ancestor, country of the ancestor, through which all living earthly things were produced. All right, that's what it means. Yak, of the ancestor through which all living earthly things were produced. Mayak, the country where all living earthly things were produced. All right, that's what Mayak is.
Intellect. We know almost nothing about Maya government and little about the daily experience of Maya life. We would know even less were it not for the discovery of this unimposing-looking building, which in 1946 was publicized to the world by a filmmaker named Giles G. Healy. For here is the fabled Bonampak, a name which means in Maya, painted walls. The building contains 3 rooms, each of which is covered, walls and ceiling, with a virtual encyclopedia of scenes at a Maya court. These murals have enabled scholars to reconstruct much more completely the details of ritual, costume, social custom, and life as it was lived in such centers as Tikal, Copan, and Palenque during the 4th to 9th centuries AD. The pigments have been amazingly preserved by mineral deposits on the plaster, enabling us to make accurate renderings. To see, for example, that though the Maya were not a notably warlike people, they did carry out military raids and took prisoners, perhaps for religious sacrifice. The hallmark of the classic period is polychrome pottery. This, called the Chama vase, shows not black-skinned natives, but Indians wearing black paint.
So did you guys hear that? He said, these ain't black-skinned Indians, this is black paint. Yeah, can you believe he said that? Dodge your own hijack right here, alright? Because they're trying to be subliminal here, and they're lying right here. They're trying to act like this is paint, so everybody got black paint on, right? Oh, they also got hair wraps and dreadlocks, right? Alright, so let's hear that one more time in case you missed it, alright? Let's hear them with the hijack.
The hallmark of the classic period is polychrome pottery. This, called the Chama vase, shows not black-skinned natives, but Indians wearing black paint. Shows not black-skinned natives, but Indians wearing black paint. Shows not black-skinned natives, but Indians wearing black paint.
All right, now we're going to take a look at this book, these writings. The book is called The Mound Builders, Their Works and Relics by Stephen D. Pete, Ph.D. It says member of an antiquarian society, the American Antiquarian Society, American Oriental Society, fellow of American Association of Advanced Sciences, member of Victoria Institute, also of Société d'Ethnographie, core member of Numismatic Society of New York, Historical Societies of Virginia, Wisconsin, Rhode Island, Davenport Academy of Sciences, also editor of American Antiquarian and Oriental Journal. All right, so this guy don't play. All right, I guess, you want to consider him a source or not, right? What did he had to say about the mound builders, right? This was written in Chicago, uh, again in the Office of the American Antiquarian in 1892. Some 40 years ago, it was held that the Mississippi Valley must have been settled by a civilized people who had migrated from some historic country. All right? So it was settled by civilized people, right? Not savage. Civilized people, all right? This was held for some 40 years, all right? Who had migrated from some historic country. Silver swords, scabbards, iron knives, Hebrew inscriptions, all right? Hebrew inscriptions, triune vases, and other curious relics were dwelt upon as proving this. All right, so Hebrew inscriptions, right? All right, let's just belly flop to another part. All right, now it says here, right? This is chapter 1, right? I just wanted to point this out right away. What they're letting you know. Remember his credentials, right? It says the Mound Builders, chapter 1, right? The mysterious races. The mysterious, you're mysterious. My story, not his story, right? Now you're mysterious because it's your story. America is called the New World, and so it is, for it is newly discovered. Our claim, however, is that America is also an old world, all right? It's also not an old world, it is the true old world. It is the old world, not also an old world. Dodge the hijack, ain't nothing over there on that other side old. It's recent and compares well with other countries in this respect. All right, letting you know right away in chapter 1, right? The Mound Builders, right? The guy, you saw his credentials, all the societies he's a part of. He's letting you know straight up that, don't get it confused. Don't get it confused. America's also an old world, and it compares well with other countries. He's talking about Egypt, Babylon, Iraq, all those places. All those places. China, India, or Hindustan, right? As it was called. It compares very well. We invite our readers into the field of American antiquities and will call attention to the prehistoric tokens and remains which are so numerous. So many prehistoric tokens here and remains. We are all well assured that there are many things which will interest them and that much may be learned from the study of American archaeology. All right, continuing. Now look what he says here. This is almost, I just skipped this paragraph, not in there. So it says, to illustrate, listen to this. Egypt has a history which extends far back into the remote past. But what occurred before history is unknown. They don't know how it started. It's what I've always been trying to tell you, right? They don't tell you how it started. All right, it's unknown. All right, the same may be said of Chaldea, unknown. Babylon, unknown. Assyria, unknown. We know who Assur is, right? Who the son of Assur is. And India, right? Unknown, right? The history of these countries is carried back constantly by a new discovery, so they're always rewriting their history, right? Because they never knew fully, making up things here. Nevertheless, deeper obscurity has come upon prehistoric times. It was the ambition of these Eastern races to be considered very ancient, but the fabulous dates have been disproved. All right, they give themselves all these crazy dates, but that's been disproved. It was debunked. You don't go that far back, and that's what we're doing today. All right, those places over there are recent. What are we talking about? 1700s, 1800s? We're talking about the building of the pyramids. Dig on that. All right, these fabulous dates have been disproved, and yet the mystery still remains. China is supposed to have had a history which reached back hundreds of thousands of years. Such extreme antiquity is denied to China. Sorry. But her earliest history is acknowledged to be uncertain and obscure. Greece has had a more modern beginning, but even in Greece, history was preceded by mythology, and that mythology is dim and shadowy. Because who are they talking about when they're talking their mythology in Greece? We've gone over this a lot, right? When we're talking about Atlantis, when we're talking about the Amazonians, when we're talking about Atlas and all these gods, Poseidon, we're talking about over here in America, right? So their prehistory is what he's saying is all mythology. They can't prove it. You understand? There is no beginning for the Greeks. because they carried that from here. And that mythology is dim and shadowy. The early history of Rome is perhaps better known, but a mysterious people is supposed to have occupied Italy before the Latins migrated from the east, okay? In Scandinavia, we find the story of the Sea Kings. These figures conspicuously as the earliest heroes, but other people dwelled there long before the Sea Kings. In Great Britain, there was also mysterious races. We go back of the Norman conquest to find the Celts and Saxons, and go back to the Celts and Saxons to find the Britons and the Backs, who were comparatively modern. We read the story of King Arthur and his Round Table and the tales of Druids as marking the earliest period of history, but we find the prehistoric people of Great Britain preceding all. The same may be said of the continent of Europe. We go back to the days of messengers and to the earliest traditionary periods, but long before these there were races in Europe. In America, also, there were mysterious races. All right, there you go again, mysterious. You're mysterious. Here, the one great event of history was the landing of Columbus. So he's saying that was the greatest event of history, right? So their history, right? Who's telling the story? His story, right? His story. His story. That was their greatest achievement, to be able to come here and conquer your ancestors and take all the riches and come to the terrestrial paradise and set up shop, right? That was their greatest event in history. It is, however, a very modern event. But that just happened. The prehistoric period in America was much more ancient and prolonged than the historic, and yet there is great obscurity over the entire period. We have set before us the subject of this chapter, the mysterious races, especially those found in America. We are to take the monuments and the relics as an evidence that such races have existed. All right, the evidence is coming out of the mounds. He's saying we're going to show you. We can't put certain things aside with what they're finding, right? What he's finding, he already knows. Again, he told you in the beginning, this is also an old world. This is the true old world. All right. But we are to study these as our special source of information. We call them the prehistoric races, all right, antediluvians, and yet may treat them as though they were historic, all right. He's saying even though they're prehistoric races, they are historic, they were real, they exist, all right. This ain't no myth like in the other places. It's all a myth, right? Egypt, then you got who's the creators? Thoth, Osiris, all gods. It's all mythology. Greeks too. It's all myths and stuff for them. Right here, he's saying you can find the prehistoric races, but actually treat them as historic. All right, we are to begin with the Paleolithic age. It is now acknowledged that there was a Paleolithic age in America as well as in Europe. All right, there was Paleolithic people over here. That means old, paleo, old, very old. All right. All right, so real quick, I'm in online etymology dictionary just in case, paleo. What does paleo mean again? So there was paleo Indians or paleo people, right, in America, just like in Europe, he's saying. So what does it mean? All right, so it says meaning ancient, very ancient, early, prehistoric, primitive people, prehistoric, ancient, early people, fossils, from Latinized form of Greek palaios, meaning old, ancient, from palai, long ago, far back. All right, there was people here from long ago, from far back. Paleo, from very far back. All right, from very, very far back, long ago. We ain't talking about just 10,000 years ago. We're talking about really far back. All right, from Pierre root, far in space of time, very far, man, not near, far. All right, continuing. Now he's talking about the Mississippi Valley and why they would probably, he was just talking about, how it's built there, the geography and everything, the land, how many products and animals and different places and terrain. He's saying right here, a river system which for thousands of miles drained the interior, furnished the channels for communication, and was evidently well understood by this people. A vast sedimentary basin through which the rivers have worn deep channels, leaving tablelands cut by thousands of ravines and presenting bluffs, Headlands, high hills, narrow isthmuses, detached island-like cliffs, in some cases precipitous and difficult of access, furnished by many places on which these people could build their defenses, covering them with complicated works resembling the citadels of the old world, beneath which they could place their villages and dwell in safety. All right, so look at that geography. You got that geography over there in Egypt today? Saw that geography? I mean, wow, man, right? They resemble the citadels of the old world. All right, they build defenses, they use these ridges, and they build their own. Right, it says the number of these ancient villages is well calculated to excite surprise. 10,000 burial mounds or tombs were found in the single state of Ohio, just in Ohio. All right, what are we talking about? Mounds, just in Ohio. Just in Ohio, I'm telling you. There's a lot of origin stories coming out of Ohio. A lot of tribes originated there or came out of there. All right, we're going to dig into that. All right, so 10,000 burial mounds or tombs are found in Ohio, and also 1,000 or 1,500 enclosures in the same state. Nor is their magnitude less a matter of surprise than their number. All right, their magnitude. It's not even just that there's a lot of them, it's their magnitude too, how they were built. 20 miles of embankment constitute one series of works. 20 miles of embankment? 20 miles. Can you even picture that? Can you picture building a mound, like a wall, like for 20 miles long? That's a lot of work. All right. Walls sometimes 30 feet in height. Walls sometimes 30 feet in height and enclosing from 50 to 400 acres. Surrounding their fortifications. All right, man, huge walls, right? They used to build huge 30 feet high in the man, 20 mile embankments and 30 feet walls. All right, these are not savages. Enclosing from 50 to 400 acres, surrounding their fortifications. Pyramids 100 feet in height. Pyramids 100 feet in height, covering 16 acres of ground. 16 acres of pyramids. All right, 16 acres of pyramids. All right, we're reading a primary source here. All right, divided into wide terraces 300 feet long and 50 feet wide, varying with the pyramids of Egypt. All right, vying. All right, so he said vying with the pyramids of Egypt. So what does vying mean? We're in the Cambridge Dictionary, and it says it's the present particle of vie, V-I-E. So let's go to that. All right, so it says vie. All right, to compete with other people to achieve or get something. To achieve, you compete. They compete with the pyramids of Egypt. All right, they compete with the pyramids of Egypt. All right, vying with the pyramids of Egypt. Form the foundations for their great houses. All right, mounds form their lookout stations, 60 and 90 feet in height. The variety of their works was great, and their distribution widespread. In one part of this wide domain, there were game drives, in which the animals hunted were erected in effigy. In another part were garden beds, covering hundreds of acres, and presenting many curious patterns. In another, large groups and lines of burial mounds. In another, many circles and fort rings. In another, lodge circles and hut rings. In another, village circles and dance rings, interspersed with temple platforms. You hear all this? You hear all this building and engineering. All right, how there was these layouts, how they had these whole towns and cities, metropolises. All right, in this area, the Mississippi Valley, and all around these mountains. So it's not just that you find one little mountain here. It's like a whole complex, town, city, like how they were building everything. In another, extensive enclosures with domiciliary platforms. In another, groups of pyramids. In another, groups of pyramids interspersed with fish ponds, surrounded by earth walls. Fish ponds, they were growing fish around their pyramids. You hear this? Surrounded by earth walls. Everywhere was manifest a wonderful adaptation of the works to the soil and scenery and physical surroundings. Can you imagine just seeing that? Man, sometimes I wish was able to see that, like experience that, like just see that. Wow, man, just live in those times and just see that. All right, that sounds like people living in a golden age, right? So they were able to like use the nature around them, the geology around them and everything, physical surroundings. Different grades of advancement were exhibited, but at the same time, great activity and great skill in gaining subsistence. All right, every spot was well chosen, and the works placed upon it were best adapted to the locality. All right, science, high civilization, high science, high science. All right, Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids, again by Peter Tompkins. Just want to read this real quick too. All right, this is on page 153. It says the first real digs. All right, has these maps. You can see all this. I've shown this actual image before. All right, and just want to read the side note right here real quick. Let me zoom in. All right, I'm zoomed in. It says Charnay was surprised at the variety of human types portrayed on masks, often with considerable artistic skill. There were the features of Caucasian, Greek, Chinese, Japanese, and Negro. All right, and Negro. This doesn't mean African. Also, Maya type heads with retreating foreheads, such as he had seen in Yucatan. They seem to validate the theories of Violet Leduc about an influx of Europeans and Asiatics, leading Charnay to comment that numerous races must have succeeded each other and amalgamated on the continent, which until lately was supposed to be so new and is in truth so old. This continent, America, is actually in truth so old, the true old world. Yes, this is the true old world. That's why you find all these phenotypes here. I've been trying to explain. We had all kinds of phenotypes. This is the origin. All right, this is Atlantis. All right. So it was supposed to be so new and is in truth so old. During 15 years of investigation of thousands of pre-Columbian terracotta pottery heads and figures, art historian Alexander von Butenau found portraits of 5 different racial types: Mongoloid, Chinese, Japanese, Negroid, and all types of white people, especially Semitic. So Semitic supposed to be white? Tosh the hijack, all right? Types with and without beards. So Shemitic or Shem. It says right here, let me just zoom in real quick. This tablet right here, you see this one right here? It's on the wall somewhere. It says Hugh Fox and his Gods of the Cataclysm says the association with the yogic trance is especially evident in these Monte Album figures, all right? A yogic dance, that's like a Hindu thing, right? But we see that there was actually here with the Maya. In these Monte Album figures, because the design portrayed on the dancers' bodies are chakras, all right? These are chakras. You see the chakras? All right? We had that knowledge of that here. The mystic centers connected with successful meditation, all right? Let me just read this part right here. It says, like the Olmecs, the earliest known settlers of Monte Alban had a hieroglyphic system of writing, a calendar, and a mathematical system of computing by bar and dot. These settlers left some extraordinary cyclopean rocks built into buildings which portray life-size Negroid dancers with flat noses, round faces, and thick lips. Alongside them are Old Testament types. Old Testament types? Alongside them are Old Testament types. Old Testament types. You see that? With hooked noses and spatulate beards. All very un-Indian. They're talking about the modern day so-called Native Americans, right? They don't resemble them. Archaeologists date these finds around 500 BC and attribute the ruins to the Olmec, all right? Again, they just named that as a tag. They didn't call themselves Olmec or rubber people. That's what they named them. The book is called The Mound Builders, Their Works and Relics by Stephen D. Pete, PhD. All right, this part of the book, they talk about the discovery or they made in the city of Davenport. All right, so this is the information they had. They say they found several large number of relics, seashells, copper axes, pipes, hemispheres of copper, arrowheads, pieces of galena, pieces of pottery, pieces of mica, stone knives, copper implements shaped like a spool, rondelles showing that trepanning had been practiced. Many of the axes had been wrapped with coarse cloth, which had been preserved by the copper. All right, the pies are all of mound builders' patterns. Some of them were carved with effigies of birds and animals. One bird has eyes of copper, another has eyes of pearl, showing much delicacy of manipulation and skill in carving. All right, this is an art. All right, these relics excited much interest and were put on exhibition before the American Association for the Advancement of Science at Detroit, 1875. All right, they're going around showing your ancestors' artwork. Right. About 20 copper pipes were reported at that time, and 11 copper awls and large number of bones. They were said to have been found at various depths, some of them near skeletons, some near altars, some in ashes, though they were all from the same group of the Cook Farm. The mounds on the Cook Farm were the most of them stratified. All of them contained bodies and ashes. 2 or 3 of them contained altars or round heaps of stone, but with no relics upon the altars. Mound number 3 was the one in which the tablets were discovered. All right, tablets, writing. This was a low mound about 3 feet high and 60 feet in diameter. It was a double mound and contained 2 graves parallel to each other, 3 or 4 feet apart, 6 feet wide, and 9 or 10 feet long. In making the excavation of the first grave, the party found near the surface 2 human skeletons, which were modern Indians, and with them modern relics, such as fire, steel, a common clay pipe, a number of glass beads, a silver earring. Below these was a layer of river shells and a large quantity of ashes, which extended 2 feet below the surface, but which rested upon a stratum of earth 12 inches in depth, under which was a second bed of shells. All right, so here's a figure. It's going to talk about this later on. This is the hieroglyphics of one of the tablets. All right, see that? A lot of this, like this one, looks like Paleo Hebrew, what you call Phoenician. This one too. Well, actually, all these right here. Some of this one right here. Above the cremation scene is an arch formed by 3 crescent lines representing the horizon, and in the crescent and above it are hieroglyphic, some of which resemble the common figures and numbers and the various letters of the alphabet. There are 98 figures, 24 in one, 20 in the other, and 54 above the lines. The peculiar features of this picture are these: a rude class of mound builders are practicing human sacrifice. One containing a face, the other circles and rays. Above this is the arch of the heavens with Roman numerals and Arabic figures. All right, Roman numerals. All right, what did they find in the Burroughs Cave and in Arizona? Right, where's the real Romans? And Arabic figures. All right, we're talking about all these languages and glyphs they're finding in this part of the world. All right, the true old world. Remember, he said this is the old world also. Let's see what else he found. The figures 8 is repeated 3 times, the letter O repeated 7 times. With these familiar characters are others which resemble letters of the ancient alphabets, either Phoenician or Hebrew. Oh, but don't say that one. Don't say that one. Oh, Kurimeo. Hebrew, that's just a religion. No. See, you don't see? Where's the origin of all these languages? They're talking about Roman numerals, talking about numbers we know. They find this in the mounds. Alright, what's the origin of all this stuff? Was Latin? Where did Latin really originate? Those Latin letters and all that, right? Those Greek letters. Where do you think all that originated? We already know the Greeks took a lot of the Mayas' glyphs and made their letters, right? Alright, they're letting you know they found all this Roman numerals, Arabic figures, and ancient alphabets like Phoenician or Hebrew. Alright, so I wanted to show you this image right here. This is the Davenport tablet. Let me just zoom into it. Alright, maybe zoom out a little bit. Alright, so do you see this? So they don't talk about this in this chapter. They're just showing you what one of the tablets they found there in Davenport. Alright, see how they're like, he's saying they're like doing a ritual right here to see the sun, the moon. Oh, what's going on here? Luminaries. Is this the firmament? What is this? What is this? The firmament? But you see the glyphs? I see Paleo Hebrew. I see a lot of things here. All right. And we saw the Maya writing the other day. All right, with the Egyptian compared. I see that here too. All right. So they don't talk about this tablet at all in this chapter, and basically, but I wanted to show you. All right. They already told you they found Arabic, Roman numerals, Phoenician and Hebrew, right? All in one. This is in the Mounds over there in Davenport. All right, so dodge the hijack. Let me just zoom in a little bit more so you can see that. All right, y'all see a lot of you are gonna recognize these symbols. A lot of you. All right. What is this? That the moon and the sun? Is this the firmament? What is this? And then you got vases and pottery. And you see all these symbols on it. I'm going to show you guys how we find the same things here in Costa Rica and Mesoamerica. Same exact things with the same designs. All right, so there is a connection here. All right. You know, look at this. Relics from the stone graves. All right. All right, it says monitor pipe mound builder. This is a mound builder. Who's that right there? Who's that mound builder right there? Then you got this, look at this. See, this is great. The Jess tablet from Ohio. The Jess tablet. Look at that. All right. All right, look at this. All right. It says rock in Arizona with phallic and fire and serpent symbol. Phallic dot. The phallic coat. All right. Look at that. Then we got inscribed shells with fire generators or swastikas from Tennessee. See the swastika? You see, that's an indigenous symbol, not no Nazi symbol. They flipped it and used it, but that was already here, that symbol. All right. Cahokia tablet. Look at this from Cahokia. Look at that. Is that a bird or what is that? Then we got another one, Cahokia tablet. You see that? And a little braid coming down. All right, and I wanted to show you this one. This one's really interesting. So again, a lot of these symbols and stuff you start seeing in Mesoamerican. Now look at these two right here. Doesn't this look like an Aztec or Maya a symbol? Looks like they're killing somebody or sacrificing somebody. But you see how he's dressed and everything? All right, now again, this is inscribed shells from Tennessee. Serpent and human effigies. All right, Tennessee. Look what they got in Tennessee. All right, look at that. Doesn't that look like Aztec and stuff and Mayan? You see that? Did they ever show you anything like this coming from Tennessee? When you're in history class? U.S. history? Huh? Alright, look at this one. Alright. It has its own little design, unique design, but it looks very like a lot of Mesoamerican drawings and stuff. It says engraved copper tablet from the Etowah Mound. The Etowah Mound. All right, you see that? His long nose, beak nose. What is that? All right, but I thought it was very interesting. All right, so we're gonna get into this book now. It's called An Inquiry into the Origin of the Antiquities of America by John Delafield Jr. This is from 1839. All right, he gets quoted a lot in a lot of the people when they doing their articles. Says here, on the discovery of America, it is well known that the range of the Cordilleras in the mountains thence running south to the lower extremity of Peru, under the name of Andes, were the abodes of a high state of civilization. All right, the Incas, these places were civilized, right, and very populous. The residences of nations dwelling in cities, skillful in the texture of clothes, ingenious in the mechanical arts, and possessing no small acquaintance with astronomy and general science, while the rest of America was savage and benighted, they say right here, huh? Without a ray of that intelligence which illumined the region just alluded to. The enlightened country comprehended several nations, differing in language and government, yet possessing such affinities as indicate conclusively as a common origin. Tradition directly states, however, that their civilization emanated from the north. All right, they came still from the north, both of them. North America, right? What are we talking about? Utah, Aslan, Wisconsin, what are we talking about? Cali, Ohio, what are we talking about?
Across the continent, near the Pacific coast of Mexico, in the high Sierras surrounding the present city of Oaxaca, rise the extensive ruins of Monte Alban. The Olmecs had built pyramids of earth, but the Zapotecs, who lived here, constructed theirs of finely cut stone. The earliest Zapotec sculpture, thought to date from about 500 BC, shows Olmec influence. Traditionally called danzantes, or dancers, these strangely rubbery, puffy-mouthed figures may represent corpses, the bodies of enemies slain in battle.